Okay.
Good morning to Dr. Arakat. So I'm Rashida Nasi with my partner Sophia Batrisha. We'll be presenting about our consecutive interpreting. Okay, so I will start with the introduction. I'll just get it to the simple so you guys can understand easier. So, the consecutive interpretation definition explains that the speaker says a sentence or two, then pause while the interpreter repeats them in another language. It can take place in person, over the phone, or via video conference. So it doesn't matter, will be in the online mode or face-to-face mode. Yeah. So the interpreter has to prepare before the event. The interpreter needs to be familiar with the particular terminology that speakers will be using during the meeting. Is it essential for the client to give the interpreter a briefing, background information about the participant and the topics for discussion so that the interpreting service will be effective? Okay, so basically, consecutive interpretation service does not need many technical types of equipment like headphones, audio consoles, microphones, and soundproof booths. What the interpreter needs are pencils, pens, and notepads. Often, the interpreter works alone. So, in order to be a good consecutive interpreter, you must be able to listen very actively, analyze what the speaker is saying, make useful notes which will jog your memory of the speech or sentence as you give it back, and then be able to make the speech or sentence as if it were your own in your active language. So the three main actions are listen actively, which is understand, analyze, take structured notes, reproduce, communicate. So yeah, all of these different skills need to be learned. So I hope you can understand what is consecutive interpretation. So next, I'll pass to Sophie.
Yes, so this is the gist, short version of the interpreting scripts. The script 1 and script 2. Doctor says, "Good morning, what can I do for you?" And then the interpreter says, "Selamat pagi, apa yang saya boleh buat untuk anda?" And the patient says, "Selamat pagi, doktor, saya tidak rasa sihat." And the interpreter will go on saying, "Good morning, doctor, I don't feel good." So the interpreter will be speaking in both Malay and English. But in script 1, the doctor will be speaking in English and the patient will be speaking in Malay. And in script 2, the doctor will be speaking in Malay and then the patient will be speaking in English. And which we had the patient as Nick Hakimi, our own Nick Hakimi from our course. So we thank him for that. And that's just the gist of the whole interpreting scripts. Next is the difficulties, and I will pass it back to Narshala.
Okay, so now we'll discuss about the difficulties in doing interpreting. So the problems is common in interpretation, which is we had a problem with a fast speaking speaker, which is hard to interrupt to slow down if the chair doesn't signal him, then speaker forgetting about the interpreter and going on and on. So other than that, speakers stopping too often and too early before you get to understand the idea he's explaining. So next is bad links, not knowing who does what to whom, what has to be changed, just like that because of what and by whom. Forget sentences also can be a problem in interpreting. It causes you take too long to interpret. Then actually you need to being prepared to start note taking all at the times. Even if you go to the restaurant after hours when you have to use your napkin as a notepad, you always should have a small moleskin notepad in your jacket, right? And your colleagues back as a support. So now you're alone and hence not running out of paper and going into the right language. Be a misspeaker in interpretation so that can avoid the problems. So yeah, that is actually the main a major problem in interpreting. So but we also can improve it in you can practice at home and try to practice your note taking and your memorize skill and all. Also, not to forget, you also can try to always always how to say practice your target language so that you will be fluent enough. So we'll move next to Sophia.
Discussing the three questions. So the first one is how to improve vocabulary storage, right? Perhaps the most effortless approaches to improve the writing skills is to add new words to the writing vocabulary. The English language is among the most voluminous, all things considered, and this implies that you never run out of words to learn and utilize. Most of us have not spent time learning new words since we were in high school, or sometimes we don't as college students. Thankfully, we can always pick up where we left off. Here are some tips to help learning new vocabulary words. So these are just a few when there's a lot more uh, going on. The first one is develop a reading habit. Vocabulary building is easiest when you encounter words in context. Seeing words show up in a novel or a paper article can be more accommodating than seeing them show up on a list. In addition of the fact that you can gain openness to new words, you also see how they're used in sentences. Next, practice using new words in conversation. It's possible to use a huge vocabulary without actually knowing how to use the words. This means you have to take it upon yourself to put your personal dictionary into use. By experimenting in low stake situations, you can practice the art of word choice, and with a little bit of trial and error, you can get the right context to it. And lastly, you can subscribe to a okay, I'll keep this quickly. You can subscribe to a word of the day feed. You know how some when you go to some websites there will be a word of the day platform a website or an app that will expand your vocabulary, and you can add these words into lists. So I'll go on the feedback on each interpreter, which is me and Nashala. She, what I what I have seen through the video, that she was a bit sparse at speaking. She wasn't quite. I didn't quite understand what she was speaking at first, which is something that you can improve. And I think she was a bit, how to say, she forgot the words at some point when she was supposed to say this word, and then she just like mind fart and did not remember what she was supposed to say. So then it made a huge long pause there, which is also something you can improve with time. And I think that is all I caught from her.
Okay. So now I will move to the analysis of the assessment I have made on my partner Sophia. So she had chosen the script of the patient going to the doctors about a fever, interpret in both English to the doctor and Malay to the patient. As for me, she did well in interpreting the text into Malay. She had a great delivery time, as we can see in the video. So as explained, delivery time allows to the continuation of the target language, production and smooth translation of the target language with hesitation. So next, there is a few accuracy errors in the interpretation into target language, which still need to improve the vocabulary and reading comprehension. So that's it. My feedback on Sophia. So I'll be short. I will be doing the conclusion. Okay. So in conclusion, after going through the consecutive interpretation, which have own advantage and disadvantage, and it's quite different function with simultaneous interpretation, we found out that consecutive is more easy to interpret the video because we would have to interpret each one sentence. We can be argued that consecutive interpreting service are easier to provide than simultaneous interpretation. Also, we learn on how to take a note taking while the client is speaking. That is how we learn to improve our memory skills, and many skill taught us to be more confident in interpreting. So that's it from me and Sophia. Hope you guys can understand it well.
Okay,
yeah.
very good. Well done, both of you. Chapas. But I have a question here. What is your comment about the task itself?
Sorry, doctor?
So what is your comment about the task?
About the task?
Yeah, about this task. What is your comment?
I think the task is a good practice for us of starting to be an interpreter. So it's actually not too hard and not too easy to do it, but we managed to done it as well. So thank you to doctor for guiding us and all. So yeah, it'll be easier because you have been there for us and keep